you can't actually divide by a matrix. But when you want to divide matrices, you can take advantage of the fact that division by a given number is the same as multiplication by the reciprocal of that number. Before we look at matrices, let's take a look at a simple scalar division. In this case, we want to divide 8 by 2. Now, dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half, which is 1 over 2. Now note that that's the inverse of 2 over 1, which is of course the same thing as 2. Now that in turn is the same thing as 2 to the power of negative 1. All of these are equivalent operations that will give you the same result, in this case 4. 1 over 2 and 2 to the negative 1 represent the reciprocal of 2. And multiplying by the reciprocal of a number has the same effect as dividing by that number. Now, let's apply that principle to working with matrices. In this case, we want to divide matrix A by matrix B. More specifically, we want to multiply A by the inverse of B. So the first thing we need to do is find the inverse of B. Now there's a specific technique to calculate the inverse of a matrix. Here's the formula for the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix. It involves a little playing around with the elements of the original matrix. We've swapped the positions of the first row, first column, and second row, second column elements. And we've multiplied the other elements by negative 1 to make them negative. Then we've multiplied the resulting matrix from that by 1 over the determinant of the matrix, which is calculated by subtracting the product of the diagonal elements. When we multiply all of that out, we end up with an inverse matrix containing elements 0.8, negative 0.6, 0.2, and 0.4. Now we can dot product multiply A by the inverse of B to get our result, which is a matrix containing 3, 0, 0.6, and 0.8. The most complicated part of the whole operation is to calculate the inverse of the matrix, and it gets even more complex for matrices with more than 2 rows and 2 columns, as you'll see in the lab. However, in reality, you're likely to use tools or scripting languages that do the heavy lifting for you. The important concept to understand here is that matrix division is actually achieved through multiplication by the inverse of the matrix.